So people already know my viewpoint walking into this treehouse. I've made my opinion fairly clear with some of the more recent decisions by Nintendo. In particular, I'm still not um, sold on the NX coming out so soon. I'm also not sold on the fact that they wanted to save the NX for an event later in the year. I really do think that they need to answer at least a few more questions on it, and they, to some extent, have, but not to the extent that we want. It's to the extent they want. But with that said, we also knew that this was going to be a 100% Zelda deal for the upcoming Zelda Wii U. And I wasn't sold on that either. I really did think that they needed to advertise not only Zelda, but all of the other games that are coming out this year. And I'm thankful that Game Freak came out and said, no, we're going to be there too. Because Pokemon is as big as Zelda as far as I am concerned. I mean, Zelda is probably the bigger franchise, but Pokemon is equally as big in Nintendo's canon. So with that said, I already wasn't walking in with the most positive of viewpoints into this treehouse, but for you guys, I watched it, and I tried to get through it as much as I could, but the conferences that I was able to get my hands on were either way too long, and we had to deal with too much translation issues, or at some point, both of the games that they showed, I kind of got bored with watching the live gameplay. I just wanted to have it in my hand. So, with that said, we actually started off with Pokemon Sun and Moon, and we got to have two representatives, including the game director for Pokemon Sun and Moon, at the Treehouse Live. And so here's kind of what we learned, because we had kind of a live gameplay demo and a little bit of a trailer. So first of all, I think the names hadn't been confirmed, or at least their pronunciation hadn't been, but now we know it's going to be Rowlet, Litten, and Poplio are the new names for the new starters. We did not see any new evolutions for them or anything like that. And then we also got the names for the new legendaries that are going to be on the box art. So first of all, we got Solgaleo, who is the lion legendary, and his typing is going to be Psychic and Steel. So that was an interesting pairing. And then we also got the Bat one, which is going to be called Lunala, and that is a Psychic and Ghost type. And we also actually got to hear that since they are kind of the emissaries of the Sun and Moon, as far as this canon is concerned, you're actually going to have a big interaction with them throughout your journey. Which is kind of weird to me because they almost painted it as if this is going to be the first time that happened. And I know that isn't the case because I've at least played Gen 3. And in Gen 3, the purpose of Team Magma or Team Aqua is to resurrect Groudon or Kyogre or Kyogre to destroy the world, essentially. So at that point, we've seen this before, and I know that I think it was Gen 5, where the team there actually was trying to bring out a legendary and augment it so that it was even more powerful and it worked for them. So we've seen stuff like that. I'm not saying it's a bad element. I think it's a great element, but it's not necessarily the first time that we had seen it. We also got to see the new cast of characters, including the new professor, which is Professor Kukui, and I believe that is a tree name. I need to confirm that. And then we also got to see friends and things like that. We also got to see the new designs for the male and female trainers. Both look great. And also different configurations. So it looked like you could actually get different looks for each one of them. And obviously you're going to be able to buy different outfits and things like that. That's a X and Y trait that is going to get carried over. Sorry guys, it's almost as if I've been recording all day. Then we also got to see the Alola region, or at least a map of it. And I know that a lot of people were actually reaching out to me and Alex on, like, do you think we're going to get Surf early? Because it's going to be a bunch of little islands. In this case, we were completely wrong because the map was basically 4 huge land masses. And one of which looked man-made. But I can already tell you that the maps that they showed off, it looked like at least 2 gyms could be on each landmass. I don't know if necessarily you take on one island and then move to the next one. Maybe you take on one gym, move to the next island, take on the second gym, and then go back. I don't know. But I did like that concept. Because, again, it allows for more exploration amongst the islands. It allows for maybe a more diverse culture in between the islands. Maybe one worships the sun a little bit more, one worships the moon. So like one has more of a Solgaleo presence, and then the other one has a Lunala presence. But overall, the map looked really great, and I was absolutely ecstatic for Sun and Moon when I get there. And then one of the other bigger features that they announced was the Battle Royale feature. At least I believe this is new. If it is, then I'm kind of surprised. But basically, it is a free-for-all Pokemon battle that you can do with up to 3 of your friends. I don't know if this actually allows for teams. They didn't really say. But it's a free-for-all, and basically the one that loses all of their Pokemon first loses automatically. And then of the 3 remaining players, they tally it up on how many Pokemon did you have left, how many kills did your Pokemon get, things like that, and then a winner is determined for the whole match. So, again, I'm interested, but I would like to see if there's a team feature and a bunch of other questions that I would have. And on top of that, again, with the gameplay, I just wanted to get my hands on it. And, yeah, so that was pretty much all of the Pokemon Sun and Moon news that I was able to keep track of. Now, actually, the Treehouse did not begin with Sun and Moon. It actually began with a trailer. And it began with a trailer for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. We now have a title. We now have kind of a focus. This is going to be like a survival meets Monster Hunter kind of Zelda. And we actually, at the Treehouse, got to have Eiji Onuma present to be able to answer some questions. And I can already tell you one thing that, first of all, I like the name. I think the name is awesome and it befits what this game is supposed to be. But the biggest part of the trailer that actually kind of freaked me out was we actually had a voiced Zelda. And first of all, guys, I know Zelda's always had the kind of voice. But at the same time, we actually had in this trailer, I'm presuming it's Zelda, because I can't think of who else it might be. But we actually had somebody saying, "Wake up, Link." And it was a girl's voice, so I'm guessing that's Zelda. And so it was like, oh, wait. I know of so many other games right now that have voices, but I never expected Zelda to do it. And I was both excited, but also like fish out of water. Holy crap, this is actually happening. So I was both excited, but I was also a little weirded out because I never thought this would happen in my lifetime. But we got a voiced Zelda. I'm presuming it's Zelda. And then we also got to go into the gameplay a little bit. And then I got my second shocker. Where, and I'll clarify this in a second, but you literally get out of what looks like either a cloning tube or a cryo tube, get some technology and some clothes, and you're thrown out into the world. But it looks like you're in a big lab. And so it's like, wait, Zelda has been primarily high fantasy. And this was a technological setting, and even Onuma admitted this was going to be more of a technological Zelda. And again, what? I like the change, but it's like, I never thought this would happen. In fact, from what I was able to tell from the gameplay, it looked like this was going to be a Hyrule that was hundreds of years later. So much so that like we actually got to talk to one guy, but he was not voiced. That's why I'm saying this. I think this is Zelda, and I think she's the only one that's voiced throughout the entire game. But we also got to see this rusted building off in the background, and he was actually saying that was the castle or a church or something like that. And I'm just like, that looks really, really run down. If that's the castle, then this is hundreds of years later, which I'm okay with. But that's, again, this is going to be like more, I don't want to say a futuristic, but maybe like have some futuristic influence kind of Zelda, including a lot of people thought that Link was in the trailer wearing a spell book. And it actually turns out to be what's called a Sheikah plate, which is basically more technology. So at that point, it's still just like, I never thought I'd see the day. I always thought that Zelda would be high fantasy, and now we have technology. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I actually think it has tremendous potential. And I did enjoy a lot of what I was seeing, but again, eventually I got to a point where like they wanted to go right, and I saw something off to the left that I wanted to go explore, and that's when I wanted the controller in my hand, kind of thing. So, again, not saying that the gameplay demo was bad. I think it covered quite a bit without spoiling too much, but at the same time, it really made me want to just play the game myself. So at that point, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap things up. I thought that they did fairly well considering the amount of content that they had, but I'm still of the opinion that Metroid Prime Federation Force should have been on there, and we should have gotten some discussion about all of the upcoming games that are coming out this year, or maybe even some new properties that you're working on for NX. Especially since it looks like Reggie was asked about Mario, and it looks like they have some new ideas for Mario on NX. So that was disappointing, and I really do think that they should have had at least something for the NX there, at least discuss the controller or something. And so that actually ultimately hurt it. Again, I know that a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing up is something that you would bring up in a Nintendo Direct, but that's kind of what I wanted here. And not to say that the Treehouse was bad, but there was more games I wanted to hear about, and there was more stuff that I wanted to see. And Zelda's great, and Pokemon's okay, but I really wanted to see more games in their library coming soon. Another big thing that would have happened was like actually coming out and saying, well, we've signed this third party and this third party and this third party to the NX, because that's another one of my big worries for the NX is, does it have the third party power that these two consoles have been kind of lacking? And that's going to go ahead and wrap up my review for the Nintendo Treehouse Live. I liked it, but I wanted so much more out of it and didn't get it. And then stay tuned for the next video where I'm actually going to be talking about the Square Enix announcements that people wanted, or that people have been asking for my opinion, as well as other panelists on the Geek News panel about. So I will see you guys in the next video.